Today on Alabama Unfiltered, we're going rogue.
Yeah.
We're not exactly sure what's about to happen.
But it could be the last
Stay tuned.
show.
It'll be fun. It might be the last show.
It might very well be.
Because we're talking all about us, who we are, why we're here, why you should or shouldn't listen to us. Stick around.
Welcome to the program, everybody. This is Alabama Unfiltered. I am one of your hosts, Scott Beeson. Allison Sinclair is with me. Amie Beth Shaver as well. Ladies, how are y'all?
Really good.
Good. What?
How are you doing?
I'm actually so excited about the show because I think it's going to be the most fun one we've done so far.
This is going to be the part where people find out who y'all really are?
Yeah.
And then, if they don't like us anymore, that's going to be awkward.
Wait. Why did you point to us?
Yeah.
Because that's what this show is about. I am the
Allison
moderator.
Scott's
Y'all
claiming
wanted
he's
to be the moderator.
No, we
Who
have.
did you say I was supposed to be on this show? The ESPN guy?
Chris Fowler.
See? Chris Fowler.
Chris Fowler
That's the way he does
totally play Would You Rather or Never Have I Ever.
If y'all,
So
if we're doing those kinds of questions are for girls and sometimes
not
Sunday
for
school
girls.
teachers.
No.
Yes, they are.
No,
Please, we'll
they're
sit in
not.
a circle and we'll tell each other something about ourselves.
But guess
that is
what?
a girl thing.
It is the equivalent of taking a Facebook name test, which
I
you
hate
should
Facebook.
never do.
What is a Facebook name test?
Well, you know how they have all these little tests and what is your animal and what kind of person are you? Like all these random, and then they collect the data. This is way better because this is old school Glamour magazine.
See, I told you it was a girl thing.
This
You
is
just
fill in the
said it's
blank.
not a girl thing, and
Tiger,
you said
not
but
Tiger
this is
Ball.
But
glamour.
you are
Teen
an evolved
Teen
man,
bop.
and you're married, and you have a daughter.
An evolved man.
And I know you have a son.
My
but
daughter
I'm
will be
just
like,
saying
"I'm not doing
that
this."
we've made Chris Shaver take these.
Teen Beat. That was it.
High five, Teen Beat.
30 seconds
Yes.
late. Good job, though.
Okay.
Very good.
But I'm saying this is what we're going to do. And because you're
Right.
you're man enough to take this
Yes,
test.
so I'm man enough to ask the questions. No,
No, you're not. You're going to
Hey,
take
we
the
need to
test.
stop because we've totally
All right.
missed part of our routine.
traditions.
It's our tradition.
Okay. This
so
is our
I don't know.
tradition.
Scott one day brought in sweet tarts, ropes, cherry punch.
Which I'm opposed to because I like the strawberries, but they're harder to find.
Oh, actually, I
And
brought
then-
these in because they
yes.
were from the Dollar Tree.
Strawberry there's kind of, if y'all like us enough and you want to send us some sweet tart ropes, strawberry,
They'll be accepted.
they will be accepted.
Some
If you
nerd
find
clusters.
the strawberry, they're actually better. But whatever, Scott brought them in one time, and we had the best show. And so now we eat one before. But Scott ate his before we got on air.
It puts
Here, I
a
won't
pep in
touch
our
yours.
step, as
Yeah.
it were. Have you had them? I ended up with some of these in my car for my kids, and they were thrilled. I was the cool mom for the day. It
Really?
didn't last very long,
Yeah, well, no, they're good.
but I was the cool mom for the
Do
day.
you, are
So
you going to
thank
tell people that we like hide them in the studio?
Allison,
and-
go ahead.
and
Why
the
don't you-
package stays open
So, by the way,
It's okay.
what he said.
because they never go bad.
They're so processed.
they're so synthetic, right? That they'll never rot or
When the mice end up in our studio, we'll know why.
apparently the mice nor
when
the
Brian's
bugs
like,
eat those
what
either.
have you guys done now? This.
Sorry, Brian. All the cords are chewed up. Be bad. I think I'm smacking in the
It's okay.
microphone.
So what is the deal with the clothing? This is representative of y'all?
Yeah.
I mean, we said we were going to do a show that
I
was
feel shame.
all about.
Well, because you look cute and comfy.
That's how girls do it. When they're overdressed and then they turn to the person that's
No.
No, but this
sloppy
is so
and go,
funny
"Oh, I
because
feel
the
ashamed."
story is like this is me. If I could wear anything, like I'm doing well to have the makeup on. I don't dress up unless Brian tells me I need to dress up for the podcast. If I could, like I've got tennis shoes on. And actually the Auburn will get there. It's representative of a part of my life as well. But it's so funny because Amie Beth says, I'm jealous. I wish I was in a t-shirt, sweatshirt. But I remember both our kids were at Briarwood Mother's Day Out probably 15 years ago. And I had no clue who she was. But we always took our kids early because they were driving us nuts and we would drop them off at early care.
Preach it, sister.
And and I would always pass Amie Beth in the hallways, and I looked like this, and she looked like that. And I remember looking
Did you
at
think
her
bad
going,
thoughts? You did. I know you did. I know
didn't
you
think-
well enough
I
now
know.
to think you're like, it's like 8 o'clock in the morning, woman. Exactly.
I mean, half of me was in awe.
Okay.
Like, I don't know if I drank coffee. I go in and out of coffee, but like I had barely gotten through my caffeine, but she looked like she was ready to walk down a runway. And then half of me was like, I mean, come on, just put on some tennis shoes. But I think she did have on tennis shoes, but she still looked really cute.
I did have tennis shoes on.
But your full face.
Well,
It was pretty impressive.
probably because I was going to go do something at API or something. Like
Was that back in your API
that
days?
was back in my API days. Because I did my best to wear my Carolina versus all y'all t-shirt today, and it was wrinkly, so I tried to iron it. And I understand
She
that this
irons
is
her
weird
t-shirts.
that I iron t-shirts, but I do. And thank
because
you,
it was
Nana.
it was how wrinkly?
It was very wrinkly.
Very wrinkly.
Not just kind of like you could get away with it, like passable gym t-shirt wrinkly.
I think the
This
standards
was
of my
wadded up in a
wrinkles and your
ball
wrinkles may be two different
wrinkly.
things.
And so I thought, well, I'll iron it because that's just what I'll do. And then it ended up getting black marks on the back of it, so I couldn't wear it. So I ordered a new t-shirt, so when that comes in, I'll wear it.
Oh, you like ruined it.
Yeah, I'm telling you. I
So
went
that's
to,
two things she's ruined.
I
Because
went
the
to-
black stuff on the iron was the other thing you ruined.
Yes, I did.
You melted
but I
something.
saved the iron, although I did melt something on Molly's jersey. Sorry about that, Molly. And then I ruined this t-shirt, which my
Maybe.
husband bought for me. And I really was going to wear a t-shirt because I love t-shirts. That's what I wear is t-shirt and jeans and tennis shoes. I do.
How did she go from I was going to wear my t-shirt to like
To this.
blazer suit?
Yes.
Because I had a lunch I had to go to.
Because this was iron.
And so
Okay.
I was going to literally
Okay.
carry my t-shirt with me, throw it on, and like, perfect. There we go.
You only
Shazam.
had one t-shirt, Miss T-shirt wearer all the time?
Well, the t-shirts that I have didn't match the vibe.
so it wasn't
And
a
if I
t-shirt you
wore the
felt
Psycho
like
T,
wearing.
if I wore the Psycho T Tyler Hansford, bro, I don't know. Chris got it for me. I was going to wear that, but then the face is kind of disturbing on there. So I thought, well, that doesn't work. And I got desperate. Okay. That's what I'm just going to tell you. I got desperate.
My desperation does not look like that.
I know I'm a dork. I'm sorry.
I love it.
I'm sorry.
Nope.
I
It's
am.
perfect. This is you, Wonder Woman.
But I do love Wonder Woman and have been obsessed with her since I was a little girl.
So
I
the
know that's
old
kinda
Wonder
weird.
Woman.
Random
What was her
Like
name?
the old Wonder Woman. Like
What was her name? I don't remember.
Linda Carter.
Yes.
Duh.
Sorry.
Linda with a Y.
I like
no,
the new Wonder Woman
Linda with an
better.
I. I don't know. But I love the new Wonder Woman. She's real pretty.
Why am I thinking of He-Man? Wonder Woman and He-Man did not
Do not go together.
He-Man
No.
and She-Ra.
She-Ra.
This is so. You want me on your Trivial Pursuit team?
She-Ra.
Obviously.
Especially for all the female heroes.
No, I love her.
I mean, I could see y'all's Wonder Woman and She-Ra.
Well, because she was powerful.
She-Ra.
And she
And
did
she
good
would
things.
probably wore Auburn
and I liked
sweatshirts
her. She would
when
have.
she wore
She was
did.
full
definitely.
shirts.
She-Ra was a little rougher around the edges.
She was a good
My little sister loved
little
She-Ra.
less genteel.
She was all about
Yes.
She-Ra.
So what about? Tell us about your outfit.
This
Scott.
is what I wore to awards day at school. So it has no message whatsoever,
lame.
other than it is not a tie and a
Okay,
jacket.
so that actually would be your dressing up.
This is this is pretty
awards
dressed
day,
up. Yes,
you know, you got to dress up for
and
that.
sometimes my wife makes me wear a collared shirt, like y'all saw
Yeah.
at the
I
Does she have
18,
to, does she have to
19.
bring it out of the closet and like hand it
Oh no,
to you?
she tells me yes. I wear the pants in the family. She picks them out. That's
like
pretty much
that.
the way it
That's good.
works.
That's
Because I have
That's
no. If you ever see me out and it doesn't match and it's the wrong kind of, I'm sure y'all understand this. Well, Amie Beth does. You probably don't. We probably have the same. But if it does not look right, it's like
Pile it on right
it's
here.
like blue pants, green shirt.
Right here.
That is because I picked it out.
That was an insult towards me, not you.
It was a good one because it was.
Trust me. You took us both down unintentionally with that one. Oh my word. Okay,
So
well,
I would rather just have shorts than a t-shirt on. But this is kind of
wait.
me normal.
Just shorts.
and a t-shirt.
Oh, and a t-shirt.
Yeah, shorts and a t-shirt.
just- no
and I
shirt?
don't care. Yeah.
No shirt,
I
no
thought he
shoes,
said,
no service.
I'd rather just have shorts and no t-shirt on. Okay. Anyway, I'm glad you
No.
wear clothes to the set.
And shoes. Oh my
Okay,
goodness.
well, here's
So-
the thing. The moderator, you go.
Do you want
Moderate.
me to ask questions?
Well, no, I just like what I think is going to be so fun is that we usually have show notes. We usually have like we've talked through kind of a script or whatever we want to talk about. We got nothing. So like this is literally just
So
y'all
the goal
listen to us.
We
is
are.
to tell people who we are.
Yes.
Because
that
it
is
was
Give
the
a
goal.
little
no,
background.
we've been doing this since January, and
Yeah.
we've never done a.
Well, maybe we're boring. Maybe people don't care
I
about
don't
that
think
part.
so. We all have really cool stories.
Maybe the cool parts we
I
can't
think you've
tell.
got a great story.
We're
Can
starting with
you-
y'all. I'm the moderator.
Wow, you keep
So,
pulling
I
that.
Okay,
know,
ask
I
us
am.
questions.
Because y'all
Ask
told me
us
that's what I
questions.
was.
All right.
Y'all are the personalities. I'm just the low, calm, non-opinionated
Sure.
person on the program.
Look,
When have
Who
you
can barely
ever-
get a word in edgewise with the women talking.
What?
Tell the truth.
Okay.
I talk too much, and I talk to myself.
I
But
talk
you
to
have to do
myself.
3 hours on the radio.
But I kind of narrate. That's probably a confession. I do narrate things I'm doing. I don't know why.
So like
Which
when,
I think makes doing radio programs easier.
okay, last week you had to jet out of here because you were going to plant your garden before it rained.
Yes.
Were
Do
you
talk
really
while
planting?
You plant?
Yes. I'm like,
You're
where,
like,
where all
"Oh,
these
I'm
words comes
picking up
from?
the
What in the world? Why
seeds."
didn't I do this straight? What? Oh, what? Those are too close together.
Wait,
yes,
so
I
you
narrate
really
what's happening.
planted a garden?
Yes.
He lives in Garden
Dale. Yes. Garden Dale. Yes.
Garden. Everybody gardens.
Okay. All right.
It's just part of it. Part of it.
I
All right,
planted a garden.
I'm having somebody come and
Really?
help me plant
That's
a garden.
exactly what I was expecting. Somebody's going to come
Actually-
plant our garden. And then in a
actually,
month, it'll be, my garden is wonderful.
Our garden's
Look,
going to be better
and
than
it-
ours.
I
Yes.
failed. I had 3 raised beds, and for 2 seasons, I did well. Things grew. Like
You had somebody come
Peppers.
out
no
and they planted them.
peppers and tomatoes. No, I planted them.
Really?
You can ask Wesley
Yourself?
when she's. Yes, I planted them. Wow.
I know you were wearing a T-shirt
Do
when
I?
you did it too.
Nope. I bet she was in sequins.
Or at least a sash.
The bad thing is I can see it. Love.
It's so not you, though. Like, if people really know you,
Yeah.
it's not you. Like, I mean, it is you, but it's not. Like, you're so much more than just that persona. I'm glad you can take the jokes, though. You
Oh,
have tears in your
yes.
eyes, actually.
It just makes me laugh because I got into pageants by accident. And so that's a fun part of life. And yes, the glitter hangs on, and there may or may not be crowns in my closet, but hidden away. But it's hilarious. It's hilarious. I had a pastor who was helping me think through the issues, because that's why I liked pageants, is the interview part and learning how to think. And he said, listen, don't get too serious about this, because it's not different than the pigskin. Like, boys are in plastic, in jerseys on a field throwing around pigskin. Like, that's what they're doing.
Okay.
And pageants are
But
not
he was
different.
not an athlete.
He was.
Really?
But he was like boiling it down
Okay,
to
he
its
was helping you.
most basic essence. And so he's like, before you get too like serious about this, you're wearing glittery things on a stage with giant earrings. I was like,
Okay. And the message.
okay.
Deep thoughts.
So he was
with-
like, keep the main thing, which is you're learning how to think, you're learning how to communicate your ideas, get out there and speak. But all the other stuff, that doesn't really matter.
It's just part of the uniform.
It's just part of the uniform.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
So it's
I can
good.
get that.
Yeah.
So from then on, I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Well, let's go back. Do you want to moderate and go back to how she got into pageants?
I want both of you to start with, like, I mean, people don't know. A lot more people probably know my story because the press loved me so much when I was in
You were their
politics.
favorite.
Yes, yes. But some of y'all stories are really, really good. So which one wants to start?
Allison.
Okay, Allison, you're
Because
you're
L
up
is
first.
before M.
Where are you from?
Well, I was born May 3rd, 1978.
Okay,
I'm about to-
Almost your birthday.
Yeah. About to turn 44. I get more immature as the days and years go on. But
in Alabama,
no, I was born in Knoxville,
in Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Okay.
Okay,
Which is interesting because it all comes back to the sweatshirt.
And the orange.
And the
Oh, you
orange.
did get the
I
orange.
can't escape the terrible orange. It's bad. But I don't know how deep we want to go, but I was born in
did you grow
Knoxville.
up there?
I actually did grow up there. Have my parents divorced when I was 3. My dad moved to Washington, D.C. and was raised by a single mom. She worked like 3 jobs. I had no clue how poor we were. She worked at a monogram shop and she made all my cute clothes, and she would monogram my dresses. But like we were poor. I say poor. anyway, I will say we didn't have heat in our house for a while. Like I remember we would come in and she would like have to run me in and stand me by the stove and turn on the stove, which how safe is that, to keep me warm while she turned on all of her space heaters. So like a lot of people will look at my life now and be like, oh, you know, she's had it easy. She came for whatever. So not the truth. But so she raised by a single mom till I was probably 10. She remarried and had a great stepfather. And my dad remarried as well. So I have a half brother and half sister, but my dad now lives in Lake Tahoe, like out in California. And it's funny because he's actually like a raging liberal. It's really funny. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. It's funny. He just was the kind of guy that grew up in Tennessee as well, but was always kind of a West Coast California guy. So he
wanted to be West Coast.
Yeah.
Okay.
And but anyway, stayed in Knoxville through high school, and then went to Sanford for 2 years. So I left Knoxville.
Was that on
moved to Birmingham.
scholarship or something
No,
like
it was
that?
the weirdest thing because I went one Thanksgiving, my mom and I went and served at like the rescue mission for Thanksgiving. And there was a guy who had on a Sanford sweatshirt. And I was like, not Stanford, Sanford. I don't know where that is. But I looked it up. I think I thought he was cute.
No, that would explain.
I probably thought he was cute.
Right.
He was kind of a dork though. So anyway, and so I looked up Sanford and I went and visited and it's the only place I applied. Hindsight, that was really, really stupid. And I think I had always gone to a public school, which I loved because, well, back then public schools were kind of awesome because not like they are right now. Like where I grew up was not like the high society. You had really rich people, you had really poor people, you had Black people, you had white people. It was very diverse. And I think that served me well. But Sanford was kind of fun because it almost felt like a little reprieve from the madness, just a little bit, you know. It was like the Sanford bubble is a real thing.
Right.
And I really loved that. I became a Christian when I was in 6th grade. And, you know, that really shaped my middle school, high school years. And I think I just craved, I had a good youth group that in high school, but then, you know, as you go on, things just get they get a little wilder,
Right.
a little crazier. And your core group of like really good friends kind of dwindles. And so went to Sanford, loved it, but I always knew I wanted to get my engineering degree. And so it's kind of stupid that I went to Sanford because they don't have an engineering degree. So my sophomore year, I transferred back to Tennessee, finished there. In the meantime, I took a semester off.
Wait. I'm missing something here.
Wait.
2 things. Number 1 is you're a lady, a girl.
Yeah.
What made you want to be an engineer?
I think I am.
Yes, you appear to be, but you can't tell in
Judge Jackson can't define
20
that, but I am.
2022, right.
Okay.
Right. So what made you want to be an engineer, though? Because there's not a lot
you're
of girls
right.
who say, I want to be an engineer.
You're right. Well, deep down, I'm really kind of a dork.
I mean, I know that. You know,
And most people that meet me today are like,
they're like, she's a dork.
Really?
I'm just, look.
No, I think most people think, like I said earlier.
You just keep thinking that.
Well, I don't know what I'm supposed to think, except that like I've gotten way more fun and way more immature as I've gotten older.
Yep.
I think I've let go of a lot of the control that I had to have. Honestly, growing up with a single mom and had the best mom, but she had her own issues from her family. And a lot of times I kind of felt like I was raising her and I had to keep her together. I had to keep our family together. I had to keep my mom and my dad civil. And so I never really felt the freedom to kind of be myself. But in the meantime, shocker, I'm not athletic. I don't know if you would have thought that.
That's such a surprise.
My kids, like they will ask me to run just so they can laugh. They'll be like, Mom, run in the mailbox. And they all laugh. So really academics kind of became like when I left high school, my chemistry and physics professor or teacher, they were redoing the room, and there was this little group of us that we always competed on our class grades. You know, we're like, oh, I made a 98 and I made a 97. And anyway, he signed the desk and gave me my desk that I would always sit in his AP physics classes. And I was such a dork. I loved it. That was kind of my outlet for competition. And then, and so physics and chemistry and all that was really my thing. It's weird. Hindsight, I'm like, I could know more. I think I still have a brain, but it's dwindled quite a bit. So my stepdad was an engineer. And then I also thought I might want to teach school. And he was like, go get your engineering degree. You can always go back and teach. And so that's what I did.
That's great advice.
No, that's a really good story. And I can see that. You actually do seem very, very smart.
On good days.
No, I mean, you really are. There's no doubt about it.
I appreciate that.
So you come to Sanford. And then go back to Tennessee.
I was either going to go to
graduate
Auburn.
as a Vol.
Well, yeah. So when I was leaving Sanford, I was like, I'm either going to go to Auburn Engineering School or I'm going to go back to Knoxville. In-state tuition was, appealing. So I went back to Knoxville, finished there, took a semester off and went and worked for the Tennessee legislature, which we've talked about before. And then graduated and took a job straight out of college with Chick-fil-A at their home office in Atlanta. And I actually did computer programming.
Oh, wow.
Which is hysterical.
Really?
That is hysterical.
Because we took some programming classes, but it's not what I wanted to do. I just wanted to work for Chick-fil-A.
Right.
And it was awesome. And so Jared and I had met. My husband and I had met by then. We got married, lived in Atlanta. He was working for Brassfield and Gorey over there. And then, hey, shocker, we got pregnant 5 months after we got married. I don't know if y'all know how that happens. Apparently we didn't. That was not in the plan. And so here I am. I'm 23. We got married when I was 23, had Connor when I was 24. And in the meantime, when I was 8 months pregnant, he got a job offer back in Birmingham, where he's from. He went to Vestavia. And we moved back here. I never work again. I guess that's where my brain cells went. Like, I've just been staying home since.
Well, pregnancy brain will kill some
well,
brain cells too.
I still use it as an excuse 20 years later. I'm like, And so had Connor, and then 2 years later had Jennings. She's 17. She's at Oak Mountain High School. Then we ended up adopting too. So my 15-year-old is from Guatemala, and then our 13-year-old is from China. So boy, girl, 4 kids. I'm an only child. This is a bizarre life that I lead because I have no clue what I'm doing. But yeah, my oldest is at Auburn still. Collins, she's 7th grade at Oak Mountain. And I don't know.
So you're going to have a whole bunch of teenagers all at the same time. All the teenage years right there together.
Well, it's just like once we got pregnant, I was like, let's just get them all through. So like maybe we can have some fun on the other end, because life is just going to be, I mean, right now it's coordinated chaos. It's kind of a poop show.
Drive from event to event, to practice to practice.
Did you ever think you'd spend so much time in the car?
No, it's gotten better since Connor's gone and since Jennings can drive. It's gotten so much better.
Makes a huge difference.
Do you make Jennings carry kids places?
Yeah, and she's so good. She really.
But she still likes driving.
Yes, she still likes driving, and she's way more responsible than I am. She probably should be the mom. Like, she'll call me and remind me when I have meetings. Or, Mom, don't be late. Which, what am I? Always late here,
Hey, but you get here.
I make it here somehow. But so we've been in Birmingham for 20, a little over 21 years. And I don't know, feels like home. So my husband went to Auburn, and just as the years have gone on, it's like you can't
submitted and adopted. Well,
you can't move here and not choose a side. I mean, I just think it's impossible.
She missed it completely.
I don't even know what you're saying. I'm trying to explain that, like I was there during the Peyton Manning years of Tennessee, like the really good years when we really hated Alabama.
Yeah.
And so
it was easy to just keep hating Alabama.
And it's natural.
Well, that is natural.
Did you make all your kids into little Auburn people too?
Or
is there one conservative?
I have one.
I'm just harassing you. Is
I was
there
about
one?
to say,
It may be Rebecca.
no, I was about to say I have one liberal.
Okay.
I have one liberal who probably won't go to Auburn.
Really?
I love him anyway.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It happens.
How did you end up with a liberal child?
That's a good question.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
I mean, what
I
did
don't
you do
know.
different?
It's okay. I don't think anything. I really don't think anything. I just
Are they like super, super nice? Like a super good kid? And they're like, I just want everybody to be happy.
Well, what is it? Is it Winston Churchill that said, if you're not a liberal when you're young, you're heartless.
Mhm.
And if you're not a conservative when you're older, you're stupid or something?
Yeah, I think it's you don't have a heart and you don't have a brain.
You don't have okay.
Right.
Wizard
right,
of Oz type stuff.
Right.
So I think his is just motivated out of like a good place.
Right.
But I'm like, just wait till you get a job and have to pay those taxes. And
Right.
I mean, because I'm being serious, a number of the young people that I know that are very liberal or liberal leaning, when you dig down, you find out they just want everybody to be happy. And I can see that. I can understand that completely. And I just wondered.
no, actually, that's actually great. Really good stuff, Scott. Well done. You came through more than a moderator. No, but that's good. And I think that's what it is, except as a believer, as a Christian, you realize that life will never be fair. That you read the Bible and there's all sorts of inequality and things that this side of heaven, we're just never going to achieve that. And so, I think he is striving for that, but it's going to be a frustrating endeavor because you just can't legislate or socialize. Is that the right word? Socialism-ist. Happiness or, making everything
Right. You won't
fair.
be able to make everything right. You can't make everything perfect.
We just live in a fallen world. So,
And then really quick, the how you got involved in politics. Because you're doing the mom thing, raising kids, and then a point comes where you're like, somebody's got to say something or do something or get people involved.
I've always had this either curse or gift in my life where I genuinely feel like I can change the world. I can remember when I was 9 years old, my best friend at the time, Emily Ferguson, and I drove by a policeman in Knoxville that was driving around, and he was not wearing his seatbelt. And this was right after the seatbelt law was passed.
I remember that.
And we were beside ourselves. I think she's younger than me. So she was 8, I was 9. And I mean, we got home, we called the Knox County police chief, and we spoke with them and told them that he was not being a good representative for us kids. I mean, they probably hung up and laughed, but like we were activists before activists were activists,
Appreciate that.
And so it's awesome because I'm a little bit ignorant to the fact that, wait, maybe you can't save the world, but like I'm going to try. And so that's why I went and did the internship with the legislature in Tennessee. I really thought I would change the world in one session. Turns out it ate me alive. But I think it's kind of like adoption, like for us after we had 2 kind of unplanned pregnancies. Funny.
See?
Yeah. Anyway, if you, that's another podcast. If you,
I am an engineer.
It's engineer. But like if adoption is kind of in your heart, it never leaves. The same thing with politics. I feel like it's definitely a calling of just wanting to change things. So after COVID and the election, I was like, all right, time for me to jump in. And I did head first, really involved in Shelby County and started local Alabama, and things have really taken off there. And I don't know how I got on this podcast, but here we are. Actually, have we ever talked about how this podcast started?
We haven't.
Mm-mm. I don't know how I got on this podcast either.
You probably
So that's funny.
You probably don't. Okay, I took up way too much time.
You didn't.
No, that was good.
No,
That was good. Now people feel like they know you.
yeah, but I'm really excited about your story.
Why?
Because this is
This
because
is
it's
the
gonna
best.
make me like he already has tears in his eyes. This is the best story ever.
You want me to tell that part of our
Well,
story?
I don't know. Not necessarily. You can save that for another day.
No,
for
I'm
people
not.
who listen.
No.
You're
She's
telling.
going to ask the right questions, and then I'll tell it.
Okay.
So, but let's get to the podcast first, and then we'll whatever
Circle
you want to
back
ask.
Saki to you.
But you know, with all the rise of podcasts, you think, well, that'd be fun to have a podcast. Cause I'm with you, like have always loved politics. I love the policy side of it. And, but really kept thinking I need to do a podcast. Like I really want to do a podcast, but who's going to go, oh yeah, I'm going to put you on the air. Like that's ludicrous.
Time out. Didn't your husband buy you a glitter microphone? Or did I make it
so
glitter
you
in my
do her
head?
own podcast?
He bought me a microphone and my old fashioned tape recorder that I had when I was 8 because I was pretending to be Jane Pauley, Pam Huff, and the movie guy. Who's the movie guy that was on the Today Show when we were little kids with curly hair? That guy. So I'd record the news in my room. Dadgummit. Somebody put the note in the comments when you see this, put in
Greg Gumbel.
Not the Gumbel guy, but the other guy. He did the movies. Anyway, I would be those voices in my room as a little girl and had an ugly brown tape recorder.
And you would do that show.
From the time I was little, I wanted to be in broadcasting. And my parents told me they would sit outside the door and listen to me do this, but I would have recordings of that. So when I told Chris that as I started working with 1819 and writing for them, that a podcast might be a possibility, he went and found the tape recorder and bought it for me. And so now it's on my desk at home. That's so sweet. I rarely sit at, but yesterday I committed that I'm actually going to use my desk. So I'll get more work done that way. Turns out if I'm not distracted. But yeah, so he gave me that. And did I carry a glitter microphone around when the kids were younger? Yeah, I did.
A glitter microphone.
Yeah.
What for?
Molly bedazzled the microphone.
That's
the girls had karaoke.
Okay.
It got bedazzled at a spend the night party because, as you know, with 2 girls very close in age, there's lots of spend the night parties.
Okay, got it.
Lots of karaokeing. And one night they said, hey, Mom, do you care if we bedazzle the microphone? No, of course not. I don't care what you do. As long as you don't burn the house down. And so from there, one time as a joke, Chris was like, you'll never know you need a microphone. You should probably carry that around with you. So I carried it around with me in my purse for a while.
So you carried a microphone around in your purse?
I am a public speaker.
For what? So just in case you need to speak to people publicly?
Well, it was a funny prop.
Because what do you plug it into?
Nothing. It's just a hilarious prop.
Like hilarious. If you need to do a mic drop.
Like a mic drop. I have it with me.
It.
Do you have it with you now?
Right now?
No. I'm saying I had it with me back in the day when I did have my bedazzled glitter microphone.
Right. Okay.
So you were right. I did have one.
Okay.
But this is years ago.
How did you know?
When the kids were little.
I feel like she talked about it.
I told her.
Yeah.
On a
Okay.
show?
I got us way off. So go back
anyway,
to the
podcast, Allison and I run into each other in the Kohl's checkout line.
Okay.
And
so this is 15 years after the
This is
the
15 years
thing.
after the Briarwood thing.
How did you know who each other were?
Because we just knew who each other. Like everybody thought, oh, I bet they go to lunch all the time. Like we live near each other.
Our kids go to the same
school. Our kids go to the same school.
We
y'all
interact,
are kind
of similar.
And
to be so different,
I always thought like she was the coolest girl, but we just never had kids in the same place at the same time. And so when we saw each other. So your kids didn't
play sports together?
No, never.
So there was none of that.
They know
hey,
of
let's
each
sit
other.
by them. We don't know who they are, but they'll be our friend for the next year.
The most likely person is Will with one of her kids in Mother's Day Out. When I lied on the Mother's Day Out form and said many things that were not true, but just so they would go to school, I lied. I'm sorry.
Is that your confession?
So, anyway, that's my confession. So speed forward 15 years later in the Kohl's checkout, and I say, hey, so I'm going to be writing for 1819, and there's a possibility that there might be a podcast. What do you think about that? And oh, by the way, we should probably go to lunch. And that's how it happened. We went to lunch and talked for 2.5 hours until we had to go pick up our kids. Yeah. And we're like, I think we can do this. And then we got the green light, which is ridiculous because she went and pitched it because, as you know, she's very good at that.
Yes. Well, they were afraid to say no.
Well,
probably.
I pitched it to Brian.
Who says no to her?
No,
Nobody.
How did you know Brian?
He showed up to one of her local meetings. Because 1819 was getting started and he was making the rounds.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was going to be there. And I don't know if he had texted me and said, I'm going, or Allison said he's there. And then she took the opportunity because he was there to pitch it.
But I had no clue what I was doing. I mean, we hadn't even had lunch together yet. And so
So this was before the lunch.
This is a hopeful.
In between the parking lot or
where she says,
checkout counter /
hey, there might be a podcast.
Right. And then Brian somewhere in between. And I had never thought about doing a podcast before, but you give me a microphone and I'll talk.
Right.
And so,
which is what she said.
Yeah. And so that's what she said. Probably my favorite line ever. And it
It's
takes
used
all I
regularly.
have to not use it every single episode. But I pitched it to Brian and but God, like literally when I say but God, because there was nothing I said. I didn't even really have a plan. But for whatever reason, Brian was like, that sounds good. That sounds real good. And so then we met with Brian, and then I pitched the whole Chris Fowler, Kirk Herbstreit, Lee Corso thing, and we needed our Chris Fowler. And I think it was Brian that
Brian
said,
connected with you.
Scott Beeson.
Okay.
And the only thing I knew is about your wiretapping. And I was like, yes, that is the guy.
Yep.
Which I don't know if you can talk about that, but
I have to think.
can you talk about what was at least in the newspaper?
Someday.
Darn
I
it.
thought you were going to.
We still got to get the rest of Amie Beth's
Okay,
story.
yes. So Amie
Where
Beth.
she's from,
Here
how
we
it
go.
started,
I'm getting comfy.
who
This is
she
awesome.
is. New
So-
Jersey girl, right? I got that part right.
Hershey,
Pennsylvania.
PA.
Oh, so close.
You're
It's
so
the same
close.
place.
It's in Northeast.
It's
He's a
basically
Yankee.
the same
I am
place.
a Yankee. And so I was born in Hershey, adopted, moved to Alabama.
Okay.
How old were you when you were adopted?
From the delivery room.
Okay. Brand new.
My parents
produce.
were on a walk. They were headed to a medical mission trip to Africa for the whole summer. Their bags were packed. Their shots were taken. Money raised. Literally suitcases out. They were ready to go. Hey, how would you like a baby?
But
Yes, we'd like a baby.
they had
And so this was their friend that they had, their OBGYN, who'd helped them in their search for a child.
Okay.
They had kind of eschewed the, adoption agency thing in favor of a private attorney and reaching
Okay.
out through, because my dad was in medical school at the time. So they just kind of reached out to their contacts. If anybody ever comes in and,
Right.
would like to parent differently, let us know. And that's literally what happened. And so they called from the delivery room. They did not go on the trip. And then I came home and we moved to Alabama pretty quickly after that for my dad to finish his residency and fellowship. Never went back. And then
Now, how did they get to Alabama?
they were supposed to go to the Cleveland Clinic
Okay.
for his training,
Okay.
but somebody was murdered in the bushes and found in the bushes near the street where they could afford a house.
And then your
And
mom
so
said,
my mom said, she called my dad and said, this isn't great. Like, I really
We
don't
have a
think
new
I'd like to
baby.
live there because this is the only place we can live, even though
Right.
she's from Ohio. He's
Okay.
from New Jersey. That's where you got New Jersey from.
Got it.
So he called the program director and said, does anybody want to switch? Well, it turns out somebody wanted to switch in Birmingham. And so they switched places. This person ended up at Cleveland
Wow.
Clinic and he ended up here in Birmingham.
Did they die?
That's what I was
And-
about to say. Did the person that went to
You know,
Cleveland, did they die too?
They've never been heard from again. Who knows where they are?
Wow.
So we didn't end up staying in Ohio. We came here, and my brother was adopted a year later, and then my little sister 10 years after that. So we always knew that our family was a miracle, that it was put together at all. I grew up at Briarwood, and I'm very glad I placed my faith in Christ when I was 4. I knew what I was doing. I can still remember what the room looked like and praying with my dad and telling God that I knew Noah was real and that was the ark. And like all these little childhood things,
Right.
come back to you.
Right.
So I'm very thankful for that foundation. And like you, really grew up thinking we could change things. And I had a grandmother who loved politics and was a strong believer, but loved politics. So it was a cool thing to have a grandmother like that in your life when other women were like, politics, I don't really pay attention.
Right.
But you learn very early on that policy matters and who you vote for matters, even if it was in Ohio and I was learning from my parents and grandparents. And so it was natural. I worked for API after college. And actually right after I didn't become Miss Alabama, I jumped. Let me jump ahead and say that right after college, I went into do pageants and I became Miss Alabama because Heather Whitestone became Miss America. So while she was waving on the stage at the camera and all the things and the confetti and whatever, I'm in the audience and the Miss Alabama delegation comes up. They're like, "You're Miss Alabama." So it literally happened on the spot. And then from there, speaking opportunities just sprung up like that, because that was really what the organization was turning itself into, was an advocacy organization.
Mm-hmm.
So I got the opportunity to speak in schools and tell about my adoption story and my platform, which is character education and emphasizing abstinence, which sounds ridiculous, but I've been in a lot of schools and talked to a lot of kids, and people want to know the truth still to this day. And so I met Chris Shaver. And then only recently.
Now, how did you meet Chris?
On a blind date.
Really? So who set up the blind date?
Did you meet on a blind date? His uncle John.
Would you rather questions.
So we met on a blind date after I had sworn off men. And I don't know why. Did you ever do that? Did you ever like swear off the ladies or swear off the men? And like, I'm just not going to date anybody right now. This is just garbage.
You mean like the drama on the ladies?
Yeah,
okay.
all the drama. Yeah. So his uncle set us up. I went and did a speaking gig for he and his wife. And while I was there with them, she snuck into their house, called him and said, there's a girl I want you to meet. And so John and Kathy Tanner, thank you forever for the greatest dude. And so we met on a blind date, and he did not warn me that he was 6'9". He's not 6'12". And he's not 7 feet tall.
He's tall.
And so he stood up.
He's tall to me.
And I was like, holy cow, I didn't know God made people that tall. Like literally, that's my first thought.
Right.
And then we got married a year later. And then we had Emmy the next year.
Yeah.
So I want to know his response when the aunt calls and says, hey, I've got this girl you need to meet. Did he hustle over there?
Crazy.
Or he's like,
He was actually at Duke watching a basketball game with his best friend at the time.
Okay.
Isn't that wild? He was in medical school. And so when Will and I visited schools, a couple years ago, I was like, wouldn't it be funny if you ended up playing up here in like Duke or North Carolina? Literally. I thought that'd be funny. Only because Chris had been there when the phone call of destiny came through.
That's what it was.
So
it's crazy.
There you go. And then only recently, 5 years ago, I connected with my birth family. I sent away for my birth certificate.
This is
just because I didn't know. I had a question following me around most of my life, and I'm about to say this, so you need to gird your loins. Because when you're adopted, you believe what you're told, and that's okay because it doesn't matter, right?
Right.
Really, it doesn't matter. But my whole life, people are always like, "What are you anyway? Like, are you
like you mean like
what? Like your skin color's tan." Like people would come up to me when Molly was a baby. Emmy was a baby, and she's very blonde. This literally happened to me. I was in Charleston, South Carolina, shopping at Walmart, and a man raced his shopping cart up to me, and he was like, "You're so dark. Why is your kid so light?" Literally.
Okay, wait, you're not dark.
Well, at the time I was.
But
skin fades. And it was at the end of the summer as well.
So
when I get dark, I get really dark.
Okay.
And it turns out, I didn't know I'm not Italian.
Is that what you were told? You're Italian?
I was told I was Italian.
Your whole life?
My whole life I was told I was Italian.
Tell people you're Italian.
Like, you're Italian. Of course you're Italian. And so now let me back up and say that when you're adopted, you either on the birth family side or the adopted family side, you're just trying to make this happen. Okay. So things get lost in translation. Let me just say it that way. But as that turns out, I'm not Italian. We even planned a trip to Italy for Emmy's senior year so that we could go visit the homeland.
So you're an adult.
So what are you?
I'm biracial. So I'm black, I'm Spanish, and a little white. So,
but how did you find this out?
DNA and my birth mom. When we connected, she's like, "Oh, by the way, did you know you're black?" And I was like, "Your birth father's black." And I'm like, "Really?" No, I'm kidding. I knew.
Like you.
But DNA, I had done my DNA. And then when my DNA couldn't find my birth mother.
Okay. So was there something about your daughter did one? And
so
she's
my
like,
daughter did the DNA, and that's a great question.
Started it, right?
She started it, and she said, "Mom, I know you've always had questions." And our hair's really curly. Okay. And people ask us all the time, like, what's your ethnic identity? Like, what is it?
Right.
Because their hair is literally like ringlet curls.
Okay.
And my hair is always straight. And so people couldn't tell, did they get the hair from Chris? Was it me? What was this? And so she did it first before she went and worked in New York. And so when that came back that she was a quarter black, I was like, we should probably do our
There's
DNA.
There's no Italian in there.
There's no Italian. There was 1% Italian.
Did you say, well, these things are never, it's a scam.
Well,
they're never right. Or did you say,
Well,
can we show the picture of you when you're like 5?
Yeah.
Did you bring it?
It's on my phone.
So like, how did you not know? Because once you show this picture,
you know what? I think that when you're a kid, you so believe you're
Mm-hmm.
adults, and so you just kind of tuck that question. I said this one time.
Well, it probably didn't occur to you till
file
you're
that
older.
question away.
Right.
Now, does it bother you that people are always asking, "What are you?" Because you realize people are curious. Like, you can't fault people for their curiosity.
Right.
They're nice enough to ask. Now, the way they ask, there are better ways than others.
Right.
Right. But as a kid, you believe it. Now, as a teenager, that really bothered me because I really didn't know.
Right.
But looking back is ridiculous with my hair that it never occurred to me. It never occurred to me.
But kids don't know. I mean, kids don't really know.
They don't know. And I don't fault
it really
anybody.
doesn't matter,
but it's hysterical because suddenly the next time you fill out medical forms and they ask black, white, Indian, American Indian, like all the things.
Did you just check all?
I check white and black. And so now when people find out, they're like, I knew it. I'm like, I know. How could I not know?
I mean, it's so weird because
I'm finding it. It's on here.
it's so cute, but clearly
It's obvious.
not Italian.
I was not Italian and I didn't know. How can somebody not know? I don't know. Like, it's embarrassing to say.
That's so sweet, though. It's like the
I just didn't
innocence
know.
of a child.
I didn't know.
And sometimes
And your
we're-
parents are.
They're like,
they didn't
what?
care.
I mean,
so why would it become a topic until you
here's the
become a
deal.
teenager and you're
this
like,
is what I appreciate the older that I am, is that I was raised as a human.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't that what we all want?
Yeah.
Just a person. Because we're one tribe. We just have different melanin count in our skin. That's all.
Correct.
I
I
have
agree.
two very brown children. And when you're talking about the things people say, I can't believe the things that
Oh my
educated
gosh.
adults
Do people
will
really say?
Oh,
Not as
Scott.
much anymore, but like when we were adopting 16 years ago, it still was not as mainstream. And so you would walk in somewhere and I don't even think about it anymore.
Right.
Like, I don't even think about I have a Chinese daughter. Like, she's just my daughter.
Right.
Or a Guatemalan son. Like, it's just Jeb.
Right.
And, but you'll walk in somewhere and y'all are like, why have a booger? Like, why is everybody staring?
Yep.
And you're like, oh.
Really?
And
Yeah.
it's even like that with my kids and workplaces. And like just yesterday, somebody asked Chris, is your son mixed? And he was like, yeah, their mom, my wife is biracial. And they're like, oh, that makes sense. Because you see their hair, but there are things that people say that they just want to know, but really and truly the way that it comes out,
Right.
Yeah.
they would really bother our kids in high school about it because it's funny that skin really does lighten over time. And mine did. But if you look at pictures even 10 years ago, I'm lighter now than I was then. And but I still tan quickly, which I like. But you just want to say to people, why do you need to know?
Right. Why
Because
does
you
it
can't
matter? Right.
can you imagine if Chris, like with his height, if he said
Because
back
they're
to
already
people,
looking at him like,
they're
oh my
already
gosh,
looking
he's
at
a giant.
him, he's really
Right.
tall,
Mm-hmm.
and they make jokes about his height. Well, he's like, what if I looked back at people and said, how does it feel to be so short?
Right.
You can't. And so
Right.
that's the other thing is race and your ethnic identity is.
Because I'm fascinated by the whole question because, my kids are tall and they're not as tall as your husband or your son, but they're tall. Man, my
many kids
daughter's
do you have?
6'3". I have 3. So I have a 6'5" son. I'm 6'4". My daughter's 6'3". And my
Molly and
youngest
Merritt
is-
need to meet.
Yeah, they really, really do. They really do. So we get looked at weird because we're pretty big compared to everybody else as
How
a
tall's
family.
your wife?
5'4".
That's so cute.
Laura's bringing it to the
Yeah,
house.
yeah, she is. She's keeping it all based. So she walks like behind us sometimes. Just
That's what I do.
So she can get the full effect
We need
of
to have a
everybody.
couples
Because when
dinner.
we walk by and people are like, whoa.
Yes.
And we're not 6'8".
100%.
But when people look at you weird, I never know if they're looking at us weird because my family's tall or because they figure out who I am and they hate my guts.
Yeah.
So it's one
Or
of
do
those.
you have toilet paper on your shoe?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm figuring mostly
It
it's
might be both.
It may be the hated, right? And that's toned down a lot after I got out of politics, but that was always a big part of what are they looking at? What are they? Or are they just trying to figure out who you are?
Right.
Like, I know that face.
Yes.
See,
I've
I think
seen them in the
mostly people
headlines.
know who you are. I
Right.
think that's what they
I've
do.
heard your voice.
Yeah.
Who are you? And so,
Yeah.
and they don't really remember. They just like, oh yeah, so I thought you were.
So where
You don't
did
know
you
if they do.
grow up?
I grew up in Gardendale.
So okay.
I'm a Gardendale boy. I was born in Hartselle, My family, my mom and dad are from Coleman County.
You're a Hartsville Tiger first before you were a Gardendale
just
Rocket?
born there.
Just born there.
Just born there.
Okay.
And then until I was starting the 3rd grade, we lived in Gadsden because my dad was in the military at Fort McClellan. And he got a job with the phone company, and we moved to Gardendale. He drove back and forth for a year or so. We moved to Gardendale. So I went to Gardendale Elementary School as a 3rd grader. Okay. And have lived there my entire life, except when I went to the University of Alabama. So I'm very fond of that community. I grew up there when it was like Mayberry, and that's one of the reasons I'm so loyal to that area. It was a great place to grow up. I mean, we didn't get a McDonald's until I was, I think, a senior in high school.
No way.
Mm-hmm.
Where'd you hang out? The Walmart parking lot?
Burger King. I bet you got Burger King before
Burger
McDonald's.
King.
Pizza Hut.
We called it the BK Lounge.
Yeah, that's what Chris called it. That's where they hung out in
They had
Huntsville. The BK Lounge.
The BK Lounge, yes.
Which really meant on the top of your car.
Or you were just in the parking lot.
You just sat there.
Yes, you were hanging out.
I wasn't cool enough to do that, but I really thought the kids who did were. I was too afraid to go try to do those things.
Your parents probably wouldn't let you hang out with those kids.
Maybe not.
They were trying to keep you out of trouble.
It's one of those things where the blessing of just being oblivious to whatever else is going on around you. Mm-hmm. So what did you study in school?
In college?
Yeah.
My degree is in geology. And
so where did that take you?
It is a long story.
When you're gardening, do you talk to the rocks? You're like, oh,
well, sometimes I know what kind of rocks they are.
Okay.
I know what kind of rocks they are
and
how to describe them. It is weird because I haven't figured out what I want to do in my life, really.
Yeah.
I've always been interested in politics, going back into high school, dealing with, liberal teachers and the whole 9 yards. So I go to the University of Alabama. I had a presidential scholarship to go there. And I had to choose between a basketball scholarship to Troy or a presidential scholarship to Alabama. And I weighed out the two. I can practice my eyeballs out and do all this, or I can just go to school. So I did the Alabama thing. I thought I wanted to be an engineer.
Mm-hmm. Really? What kind?
At that time, it was just engineer, right? Whatever was the cool thing at that time, whether it was civil engineer.
But you're a geologist.
I used to be
close
smart.
enough.
I mean, I got the presidential scholarship for that. And so I started it, ended up going to some of the math classes taught by the foreigner, Yeah. You know that one? Yeah. I had no idea what he was saying. I still don't know how to do a derivative or what it is because no one can give me a good definition. And then I said, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
So now I'm in college thinking, what am I going to do? And I end up going to a geology class with the greatest professor ever. I mean, just old school Indiana Jones kind of guy.
Oh man, that's coolest kind of people.
His name was Dr. Hooks. He had gone to the University of North Carolina, came to Alabama in like 1954.
Wow.
And was just a rock star. He was one of the first 2 guys that got to actually go look at Mount St. Helens after it erupted.
Wow.
He was one of those guys like, okay, send these
legit.
geologists. He's a legit guy. Greatest office, had a coffee mug, a giant coffee mug that had every watch he had ever owned.
No way.
And when they died, he just put them in there. It was the watch graveyard, and it was just old watches.
So you were wooed by the bright lights
I
of
was
geology.
wooed by because at one time I thought I wanted to be a paleontologist or something like that, archaeologist, because I thought that's Indiana Jones. That's awesome. And then
that's Ross from Friends.
Yes, it is.
That's his name now, Ross.
He's such a Ross.
And I did the little 2-day, 1-day thing to see what they really do.
Yeah.
And after like 5 hours of sorting, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I did not see this in the movie." And so I ended up taking other geology classes, and then, as some people do, I'm like, "I've got a bunch of these. I guess I'll graduate with this." Sometime during that, I thought, "Well, I may go to medical school, or I may go to dental school."
Okay.
So I took the MCATs and made good enough to go. I did you use the MCAT for dental school? I can't remember. But anyway, I applied for dental school at UAB, got accepted, paid the deposit, about to start. And I'm like, I do not want to look in people's mouths. What am I doing? I'm doing this so I can work 4 days and play golf on Friday. Yeah. This will be terrible. So I ended up, Lori and I got married after my first year of graduate school, where I taught geology lab when I was... So
you went back just to get your master's?
Yes, I went back to get my master's.
In geology?
In geology.
You've gone married. Around the block.
Yes. Got married, went to my second year of graduate school, then said, I'm going to get a job, and did the wonderful, I'll finish my thesis later, which means you're never going to do it.
Right.
Just like my professor said, you'll never do it. Started work as an environmental consultant, environmental science geologist person. And a couple years later ran for the Alabama Senate when I was 24, lost roughly 60-40. Had no idea what I was doing, had never been involved in politics. I just thought, if I just go out and see people and talk to them, they'll vote for me. I signed up on the last day you could sign up.
Wow.
With 2 minutes left before the deadline.
Way to just go for it.
And the way I made my decision was, I was looking, I said, well, what can I run for? And they said, well, you live here, you can run for this is the House, and you can run for this is the Senate. And I said, well, there's already a couple people running for the House. I'll run for the Senate. And that's how I ran the first time. I had no idea that that the state senator that represented me lived in my hometown, which I should have known, but I didn't because I wasn't plugged in at all. And I decided to run on vacation before the sign up, the week before. And it really was talking to my family, my parents, and saying, why don't people do this?
Yeah.
Why doesn't somebody say this? I mean, I'm just 24. I know how to fix this. Why don't they do it? And I realized while I was trying to figure out who to support, that if I really wanted someone to do what I thought was right, I needed to be that person. And that's how I got involved in politics. Wow. So I've done all kinds of stuff. I've done residential construction because I realize it's difficult to work a real job, a normal job for someone else if you're actually doing what you should do in the legislature. Right. Long story. It's been an interesting ride for me.
Kind of like it. I mean, you have a lot of knowledge about a lot of things. I
guess I'm either the whole Renaissance man thing.
Yeah,
might mean that you're fairly good at a lot and not really good at one thing.
Well, you know what though, that stands out to me about both of you is this idea that we have to have all the answers before we jump in and do anything. And you just went in because you're like, I'm just going to do this. And you woke up, the Lord had given you a dream and had been on your heart, and you'd been an active community member, and you just started it. So we are smashing the dream or the idea that it has to be perfect before you start. It doesn't. Look at the impact that they have had on their communities and still have and will have for years to come because they said, I have an idea. Why don't people do it this way? Well, let's go teach them how to do it. So that is what I want y'all to learn today. Your PSA has been brought to you by the Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman. All right, so everybody's family and kids. I didn't say I've got 3 kids. I did say that because I gave the heights. My oldest is Keller, who is about to graduate from UAH and some sort of data analyst, computer science. He's really, really smart. He's like 2 questions away from a 36.
Oh, my word.
On the ACT, and so he got the full ride deal at UAH. And then I have my daughter, who is Merritt, who is plays volleyball at the University of Florida. So she's a SEC athlete. She's super athletic. And then Mac is my 15-year-old, about to be a sophomore, who plays football and basketball.
Also, I'd like Molly to meet Mac, but anyway.
Whoa.
His girlfriend might frown
Blind
on that,
date.
but it's okay.
Just a nice man who's tall.
He's only 6 feet tall now.
Is she taller than him?
She's 6'2".
Yeah, he has to grow. He's planning on
So
6'2"
let's
or
just
6'3".
stick with Molly, and I'm not creeping in. I'm not trying to do that. Molly and Merritt need to meet. So you have great kids, and all your kids have great names, by the way. Just want to say that. I noticed when you were calling each of their names, they have really good names.
Mac's real name is McCallan.
That's a neat name.
There's a good story about that too.
It's a very.
We'll do that another show.
Is he going to be a president someday? Because that sounds very.
He is very social. He is my most social child.
Okay.
He just lives to be around people. So.
Is that your wife? Because you generally don't like people.
You know that. I'm
Really?
very social, kind of.
You're social.
What? And I'm always early and on time.
I bet that you're on the line. Are you on the line between, what? Oh my word. Like all the words today are just gone. Like, are you antisocial? Are you kind of social? Are you right down the middle between being an introvert and an extrovert? Both of you. What do y'all?
I don't know. I probably prefer, you may be closer to right than you are wrong. I don't necessarily love people all the time, but when I was campaigning, I loved the campaigning more than I did. I like meeting people. No, I like talking to people. Does that make sense?
That's it.
So I don't love meeting the new person. I'm not just going to be, I don't like being the person who goes into the room and I'm fine standing back, but I love the conversation. I love once it gets started, I love going, but I will talk to the people at the drive-thru and kind of freak them out and have a real conversation.
Like,
so
what, is this guy
they're
about
like,
to
why is he
kidnap me?
talking to me? Right. But so I don't know. I'm a weird
funny. Yeah.
bird.
Are you down the middle?
I'm straight down the middle. I'm actually more introvert. I recharge when I have some quiet. Like now, a lot of people think that's weird because when I'm talking and I'm out, I'm like, or whatever, like I have a lot of fun and can be very social, but I actually need some quiet time. But I'm like 48% extrovert, 52% introvert. Like it's crazy.
Fair enough. You?
You?
I am a little more extrovert than introvert, but I feel like I was more extroverted as a younger person, but the
that's
older that I get, the more that I realize, like if you take those little, whatever that Myers-Briggs test is, I'm kind of like you, but just reverse.
Yeah.
Because now I really appreciate the quiet. We are all so busy that I appreciate the quiet. I appreciate putting the headphones in and reading a book and just mentally getting it together before going back out again.
Wait, you listen on headphones while you read?
I can.
To two different
Sometimes.
things?
Well, it depends. Like if I'm flying, maybe I'm listening to like some background music.
Oh, okay.
You
So
know,
not
I'm
like a
reading,
book in your head
or
and then a book.
If I'm watching something, I may just have the book in case I get bored with what I'm listening
Wow.
to.
That's amazing because I don't think I could do that.
Kind of weird.
Impressive.
Multitasking.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
It's impressive.
So we're going to learn more as we go, right?
Well,
How about y'all?
Yeah, but come on.
Because we're at an hour.
I know,
we
but
can't.
like,
we got to stop.
can-
It's over.
Let's play one round of Never Have I Ever.
Okay.
No. Go ahead. Y'all start it. And it'll be so fun that I'll want to take part.
Okay, the way it works.
Okay.
I'm going to start it. Okay, this is what all the teenagers do, except theirs goes south real quickly.
Right.
So to play Never Have I Ever, you put 5, we're just going to do 5 fingers up.
Okay.
Come on, Scott. Okay.
Rub my nose, but
And so I'm going to start, and I'm going to say Never Have I Ever, and I'm actually going to say something that I've never done, but that I think you two have. So if you can't say Never Have I Ever, you got to put a thumb
And you
down.
lied when? Just to get your kids in Mother's Day out?
So like,
Okay.
like,
So I'm fully prepared to lie.
okay, so here we go. And then we're going to go to you,
Okay.
and then we're going to go to Scott, and it
Okay.
goes around, okay?
Okay.
So never have I ever been to Red Lobster or had one of their cheese biscuits.
So if you have
If
done
you,
that,
if you have done that, you have to put one down.
Okay.
I know you've been to Red Lobster.
You were so condescending. Just because I live in Gardendale does not mean I've been to Red Lobster.
I actually,
You were
it's not
shocked.
condescending. It's not condescending because
Like, it's
everybody
so
talks
cute.
about
He's so
their
fond of his town.
every
And they go to Red Lobster
Everybody-
and love the cheese biscuits.
and Applebee's.
Yeah.
No, everybody talks about the cheese biscuits, and I have never had a cheese biscuit. We might have to go to Red Lobster.
Really?
The cheese biscuits are delicious.
And you're
I've only
from
had them one
Tennessee.
time.
Never.
Okay.
I know.
And you've never been
Thank
to Red
you.
Lobster?
Never.
All right.
Okay. Go,
So
keep going.
now I have to do
You
a
have
never
to
have
say
I
never
ever.
have I ever.
So I got to do the thumb first? Oh, you have to do it now? Okay.
Yeah, now she says something that she's
I gotta
never
make
done.
that- give me your list because you're cheating.
I did
Okay,
have time
this
to think
is
about this.
really hard. Never have I ever. There's so many
It's
things
hard.
I've done.
Okay,
It's
we're
so
trying
hard.
to-
Never have I ever driven to California.
I actually have done that. Oh, wait.
Mm.
I'm just one down.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So I'm trying to make y'all put your hands down, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But it has to be, you can't lie, Scott.
Yeah.
It has
No.
to be something you haven't
Tell the
done.
truth. Shame the devil.
Do you want me to go on my next one? You can
Yeah,
think.
go ahead. Let me work.
Okay.
something.
Never have I ever broken a bone.
Did I pay to
Just
have a
cra-
bone broken?
Just crack.
What?
Just paying to have a bone broken count.
What?
My nose.
Okay.
Does cracked count?
Yes.
Okay. It's not really broken. It's just, you know,
Is
when you
it
say,
not?
when they say,
Is it not completely intact?
Crack.
no, like, does a cracked bone count? Because you always go to the doctor when you're a guy.
Yeah,
and they're
I
like,
think
it's just
cracked.
cracked. You'll be all right.
Yeah, no, I think cracked.
Okay.
But you're far too casual about the crack, though. You're like, come on, man. Like, do
Just
something
rub
for me.
some dirt
You
on
hurt
it.
my bone. Come on.
Devastating.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you have one? I gave you time to think.
Oh, yeah, I'm going next. We're
Yeah.
not going in order anymore.
Oh, okay.
Keep going in order. I like
Okay.
this. I like this game. I'm just playing the game.
You like the game?
Not really, but I'm
Okay,
trying to
okay.
build
Do
y'all
you
up.
have
so
one?
nice. No, I don't. Just do
Okay,
another one.
never,
You're good at
never,
this.
never have I ever smoked a cigarette.
I have never smoked. I've taken one puff of a cigarette.
That counts.
That counts. Put your finger
No, that
down.
does not count
It
as smoking.
does
Y'all did it
count.
on your own. If your grandfather who smokes says, "You really want to try one? You really want to try one? Here." And you never touched another
That
one. That does
counts.
not count
I
as
wanna let
smoking a
you know.
cigarette.
That's like I did
One
not have
puff.
sexual relations with that lady. With
One
that
puff
girl.
from your grandfather does not count as smoking a
does.
cigarette. Did you smoke
Okay.
the whole thing?
I've never smoked a cigarette. Now I've held a
She
cigarette.
did. There's no doubt. To
Chris
the end.
Shaver taught me how to smoke cigarettes.
No, don't throw Chris under the bus.
No, it was great fun. And I would smoke if it wouldn't torch your lungs.
If it wasn't bad for you.
If it wasn't bad for you. He would go down to the Chevron station by St.
Right.
Vincent's during medical school in order to. No, he doesn't mind. We talk about it. The kids know it. They know everything. And so he would go down to just get one.
Right.
One
you
cigarette?
can buy
You can buy
one?
singles, and he would
You
buy
can-
them
can you?
just to like, I don't even know
Oh,
why.
I know you weren't.
So when we
pack at a
first
time.
started dating,
I
we
just
sat on
hold
the
them.
steps of his apartment in near Altamont, and
Uh-huh.
he was like, "Okay, this is how you smoke a cigarette." I'm like, "Okay." It was great fun. And I was like, "Well, I'll never do that again," but now I've done it.
See, that's a whole cigarette. Mine was
That was
one,
a
and
whole
you're-
cigarette.
Right, and you're making me do it just because
But
you
you
want to get
smell
ahead.
bad, and it's bad for your lungs. It's so bad.
That was a deal breaker for me. I could never date anybody that smoked.
You can't. And he did not smoke at the time. It was one of those that he knew I had wanted to try it. So he was like, "All right, I will school you in the art of things you should not do."
But hey, let's go do it. I'm going to
do
the
it
Chevron
right now.
Because you can buy them one at a time. I didn't even know that was
I bet
possible.
there are people would be like, "I'm going to unfollow her." That's okay.
No.
You weren't following me anyway. It's okay. Don't follow
I'm
me.
down to 3.
Okay, well, we are
This will be our
supposed to
longest
go.
show ever.
We're supposed to go until
Sorry.
everybody
Can we
gets
do
out,
to
but
be
y'all
continued?
can't. Okay, 4, 3, 2. Amie Beth's about to lose. Oh, okay. We'll do this at the end of next show. We'll finish it
We'll
up.
see. Are we starting with 4, 3, 2?
Yeah.
And I've got dessert questions that I'm going to ask. So they're in my brain. I'm not going to
I'm
ask
just trying
them
to
right
think
Like right now?
questions that I can get y'all out with.
No, you've got a week to think about it.
now. Okay. So I'm on 2. Y'all better
Suddenly
come
nervous.
through.
Whoops.
Oh, this has been
Fun.
this has been the best show ever.
It's interesting.
Well, and you know a little bit more about us. So thank you for watching the program. Please give us a thumbs up. Tell other people about the podcast. Ladies, any last words?
I think we said way too much already.
I think y'all
think
did
we just
too.
need to tap out.
That's why I was the moderator.
Alabama Unfiltered.
The moderator.
Yeah.
The
Thanks,
moderator.
Scott.
The moderator.
See y'all.